Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael with the ALG Education Team. Welcome to our workshop, What Now? Finding Post-Pandemic Possibilities. So it is my pleasure to welcome our very special guest presenter and keynote artist, Mr. Mike Rayburn. Welcome to you, Mike, and thank you for sharing your time with us today. One quick reminder before I hand things over is everybody attending today's workshop will qualify for our random drawing to win a 3-night stay for 2. So good luck to everybody. That does include airfare, so that's awesome. So we'll go now live to Mike, someone not too old for a tattoo, and he'll deliver today's workshop. So take it away, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. Let's do this again. Let's try some fun here. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, this is the way I illustrate things. My style that you saw earlier and then just then, as far as tapping on the guitar, I'm hoping you'll take as a metaphor. Because as we discover opportunities, as we change quickly, and as we act decisively, what we do will have appearances like what we've done in the past. So that's still a guitar, and it's still 6 strings, and it's tuned basically the same. But it will look, the appearance of it will be a lot different. And that's what's going to happen as we move into the pandemic. What's also going to change is we need to be able, in the area of, well, let's back up here. What I would like to do is flesh out a couple of points with regard to discovering opportunities, changing quickly, and acting decisively. Now, with regard to discovering opportunities, I think in the past we've had this tendency to want to present and do the things that we do. I talked about being service providers, okay? And what we need to do now to discover opportunities is to move to becoming problem solvers. Rather than service providers, we are problem solvers, so that the scope of what we do expands beyond what we've done in the past. And what you will find, you already understand that what one client wants is going to be different than what another client wants. But I think that that is going to grow in its dichotomy, in the disparate ways that clients need to be served. And I'll give you an example. I have 2 kids. I have a son named Zach, who's 16, and a daughter named Seneca, who's 19, going on 30. She knows everything. And have you ever noticed how you can have 2 kids from the same family and wonder, how in the world do you have the same DNA? Okay, so I'll give you an example. My daughter and our things, her name is Seneca. We're all about adventure, right? So we go on these hikes and we go off the trail and we go to places that nobody's been before. And we find new ways to climb mountains and stuff like that. That's our thing, right? We live in Las Vegas. 1 hour northwest of Las Vegas is a mountain called Mount Charleston. It is a just under 12,000 foot peak. The depth of our idea here, and this is going to illustrate the difference between two people. The way you have to relate to one is going to be different than another. The altitude is just under 12,000 feet. The depth of our idea was, we looked at the peak and said, hey, let's hike up there and spend the night. So almost exactly 2 years ago, it was September 29th, 2018. I'll just sum it up for you. In 24 hours, we hiked 17 miles. We climbed 5,000 feet. When we started in Las Vegas, it was 95 degrees. By the time we got to the peak at dusk, it was below freezing. The wind chill was over the wind speed was 75 to 80 miles per hour. That's a Cat 1 hurricane. Okay, we pitched the tent. We stayed the night. When we woke up in the morning, the temperature was below zero, ice on everything. We packed up. We somehow made it over a very dangerous ledge. We got back down. We drove home. We burst through the family door and told our triumphant story. And my son's reaction was, that's why we have a house. Okay? So you're going to have the adventurous and you're going to have the that's why we have a house. So as you serve those are there. It's not just about how you serve each of those, the different types of people, the different types of clients that you have. But it's about what they say to you and how that becomes an opportunity. There's an opportunity to serve the ones like my son, and there's an opportunity to serve the ones like my daughter. And we need to then dig back into the simple questions like this. What is it that you have but haven't used? What is it that you have but haven't used yet? Or what is it that makes you good but keeps you from being great? Look at it this way. You have a successful business right now. That means that things are working, okay? So to get better, to change, means that something that's good needs to be replaced. This is what I, as an artist, have to do. As a stand-up comedian, I played for years in comedy clubs, did comedy at colleges, right? And so my show was good. So to do something better, I had to get rid of something that works. That's hard. What is it that makes you good but keeps you from being great? You're going to find opportunities when you ask that question. So let's dig it. Now, I talk a lot about questions. I wanted to share this with you. I talk a lot about questions and I use music. And somebody asked me, well, what do questions and music have to do with each other? And it turns out a lot. There's questions in all kinds of music, in the titles, in the lyrics. Some of them are dumb. You know, do you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain? But I thought I would just share with you a few of the questions that are in songs, just so you can see how important questions are. What about love? Where is the love? Who do you love? When will I be loved? How deep is your love? Why do fools fall in love? Who wrote the book of love? Why must I be a teenager in love? Do you believe in life after love? What's love got to do with it? Do you love me? Will you love me forever? Do you need me? Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? Will it go round in circles? Will it fly high like a bird up in the sky? Why do birds suddenly appear every time you're near? Who'll stop the rain? Have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? Can't you just see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to kick me from behind? Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Why can't we be friends? What's it all about, Alfie? Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? What's forever for? Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? If a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you? If a face could launch 1,000 ships, then where am I to go? Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? Where are you going to? Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Do you know the way to San Jose? Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Should I stay or should I go? Is she really going out with him? What you going to do when she says goodbye? What's so good about goodbye? How do I live without you? When can I see you again? What have you done for me lately? Are you lonesome tonight? What about me? Do you want to dance? Could I have this dance? Can you hear me? Can you hear me calling? Can you hear me calling you? Do you hear what I hear? And for God's sake, who let the dogs out? You see what I'm talking about? It's questions and everything. So that's why I talk about asking the question, what if? I talk about now. What now? What are we going to do now? and we move forward. So I talked to you earlier. First of all, we've talked about discovering opportunities. We've dug into that a little bit. Let's talk about change. And I mentioned earlier, changing quickly. What if you have people who are not ready for change? People on your team who are absolutely valuable team members, part of your organization, who are just not on board for change as quickly. What we need to do is something that I call humanize the change. So how do we do that? There's 6 different ways that you can actually make this better for the people who you need to kind of pull along with the change, because some of them will be ready to go. There are some, and what we found is the people who are ready to change are the ones who are being more successful right now. And I'm talking right now in the last 3 months, okay? Given the pandemic, given the things that are going on. But let's talk about how to humanize the change. First of all, to humanize the change, what we need to do is show them where we're going, show them the goodness of the result, show them why we're changing. Okay, it's not, because a lot of times people will associate like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to go from something that's working? Well, the fact is it's probably not working, or it's not going to work. So show them the goodness of the result that you're trying to create, why this is so important. When people see that, they're willing to go along with you and willing to move forward. Number 2, you have to be attentive to people's needs. Be attentive to people's needs. Some people need, when things change, have problems with that. If you can simply talk with them, if you simply have a conversation, be open to what they need. If we're sensitive to that, they are a lot more willing to come along for the change. And you take this person who's otherwise an awesome team member, kind of pulls them along a little bit better. Next, as a leader who is implementing change, which I'm assuming most of you are, we need to avoid the attitude of, because I said so, okay? This is how parents talk to children, but it is not the way leaders talk to people on their teams, okay? If we give the because I said so attitude, it becomes a forced thing. And force is not what we want here. What we want is team unity. So avoid that. Be one who reaches out in an emotive way, in a directive coaching way, rather than a commanding way. Next, we have to acknowledge, this is important, acknowledge the good in the old way, the way things have been. You see, many of your team members were integral to either creating and or implementing the way you've done things in the past, correct? They're the ones who helped design that, help make that happen. They are the architects and the implementers of the success you've had so far. So when we acknowledge, hey, you know, that was awesome. We've been doing this so well. You make them, you lift them up, you edify them, and that makes them feel good. And then you say, and here's why we're going to change from that, because this is something better. Again, keeping that result, the first point I made. So next, we need to discuss the problems. How many of you get a little frustrated every time Apple changes iOS or the operating system on your computer changes, right? It gets a little frustrating. Why is it frustrating? It's frustrating because we associate it with problems. We associate it. I'm dealing with one right now with Facebook. Facebook decided to change something, and I can't get back to my page the same way I wanted it to, right? We associate problems with change. Problems with change. Well, that's going to be a problem. That's good. As long as your people see change as problem, they're going to be hard to bring along. So what we need to do is, number one, where possible, solve the problems beforehand. Again, the most successful people are the ones who solve tomorrow's problems today, right? Or at least discuss and acknowledge that this may be a problem going forward as we change, and that we're going to have your back on this, that we're all going to work on solving the problem. We need to acknowledge the problems that are going to happen, because change inevitably brings problems, okay? That's part of it. And the problems, I will also argue, are there to get us to where we need to go. So acknowledge the problems, solve them where you can, but bring people along with the idea that together we are going to solve these. And again, keeping the reason for the change front and center, so they realize there's a driving force. There's the carrot that they're after, right? Rather than the stick, it's the carrot. Finally, if you want people to follow you into a change, into serious change in the way you do business, you need to be a respectable leader. You need to be someone that they look up to, someone that they see has always got their back, someone who's got the full picture in mind, someone who's not just good at what they do, but otherwise a jerk. Okay, a friend of mine does this. She's a brilliant jerks. You need to be someone that they respect in every other way, because when they respect what you do, they respect the fact that you have their backs, that you have their best interests at heart, that you have the best interest of the entire organization at heart. When then you've been this person, this leader that they respect and look up to, and then you say, folks, here's where we're going, and it doesn't look anything like where we've been, they're ready to follow you because they already respect you. Those are the ways that you can humanize the change. Number one, keep the reason up front. Number two, be attentive to people's needs. Number three, avoid the because I said so attitude. Number four, acknowledge the good in what used to be, because people on your teams were integral to creating and implementing what was working in the past. Number five, discuss the problems that may come from this, solve them where possible, but be ready to show that we're ready to tackle those. And number six, be a respectable leader. So finally, before we jump into something that I would like to close with, there is an approach that has never been more important than right now. I talked about the fact that there's purpose in what we do. So if there's a purpose, I mentioned that at the end of the last program, there's a purpose in what you do. There's a reason for the way we spend our time. So if there's a reason for the way you spend your time, think about the way you spend your time. Say the last 2 weeks, the way you've spent all the time over the last 2 weeks, and answer this question to yourself. Are you driving with the brakes on? Are you driving with the brakes on? I don't know about you. I'll just confess for me, the answer is yes. I'm guilty of this. I know this. I'll be like, oh, yeah. Oh, well, maybe. Or I'm going to do it. I'll be like, oh, no, I'll do it tomorrow, right? It's a push-pull with the brakes. And it causes us to move sideways. And I don't want that for you, because right now, there has never been a more important time for us to be moving forward decidedly. This is how we act decisively. So I want everyone, this tool is the way to make acting decisively a way of life. I want you to become a virtuoso. Become a virtuoso. That's a funny word. A virtuoso in the music world is someone of mastery level skill. Someone who wakes up in the morning making the choice for excellence so often it's not even a choice. It's just become who you are. And let's be clear, I'm not saying that I am a virtuoso, but I have made the choice to be on that path. And that's what I'm asking you to make right now, the choice to become your personal best. And I know a lot about the path. And the first thing I know about the path is that most adults never make this decision, even successful folks. Okay, instead of rising to personal best and becoming a virtuoso, they rise to acceptable, okay, getting by, what's required, the bare minimum, instead of moving on to becoming personal best. But here's what we find. We find that the greatest impact that you'll have, the greatest influence that you'll have, the greatest income that you'll have happens between competent down here and virtuoso. Understand, the opposite of virtuoso is not failure. The opposite of virtuoso is competent. There are plenty of competent people in the world. There are plenty of competent people on this call right now. There are precious few virtuosos. But again, the greatest rewards, come when we make that choice to move beyond competent and getting by to virtuoso. In the late 90s, I had been performing at colleges. I've been a professional speaker now for 20 years. But before that, for 16 years, I played 1,800 college shows all over the US and Canada. And just in that niche market, I don't mean anywhere else, but just in that niche market, I was on top of it. I was winning awards. I was booked 150 times a year, just driving all over playing these colleges, right? And pretty happy about the success. And a friend of mine who's a peak performance coach, a guy named Brian Tracy, some of you may have heard of him, his close friend and a mentor. Brian saw my success and said, Mike, that's great. Have you resolved to be the best? Which was his way of saying become a virtuoso. Have you resolved to be the best? And I was like, dude, that's guitar player talk. Dude, I'm doing pretty well here. He said, dude, that's not what I asked you. Have you resolved to be the best? Have you made the choice to become your personal best? And I thought about it. And the answer knocked me over. Because the answer was no. Here I was doing what I feel purpose in. Talked about purpose, right? Purpose in. Here I am doing what I'm put on the planet to do. And because it's working, I was coasting. Turns out most adults are coasting in some important area of life. I don't know about you. You can make your own assessment on that. Most adults are coasting. And here's the problem with coasting. It only happens downhill. So he said, here's what I want you to do. He gave me an exercise. I'm going to share this exercise with you. We're not going to do it here as a workshop kind of a thing, but I want you to do this as soon as we get off this call. He said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take out a sheet of paper. And by the way, this is so powerful, it affects my life. I did this over 20 years ago, okay? And it's still affecting my life to this day. He said, I want you to take out, and it's simple. Take out a sheet of paper. I want you to write this question. Again, back to questions. This question at the top. This will be the last question I give you today. He said, what would it take for me to become a virtuoso? And then fill in the blank at the end. So I want you to do this. Write that question at the top of a blank sheet of paper. Sit down, pour your favorite beverage, and answer this question. What would it take for me to become a virtuoso travel professional for you? For me, it would be keynote artist, transformational leader. What would I do to become the best? And he said, and I want you, he said, write this in and then answer the question. And I was like, dude, I'm so going to do this. And he said, yeah, dude, sit down right now. I'm like, we're going to be here for days. So let me give you an idea of the things that I wrote down that day. I had been playing guitar at that point for 20-something years. The first thing I wrote on the list was take lessons. Who knew? I'm self-taught, right? Or at least the beginning for my career, except for classical in college, I was self-taught. And when you're self-taught, I'm self-taught. Here's the problem with being self-taught. The teacher's not that good, right? So I was like, hey, what if I go to teachers and I could sharpen the learning curve? So I did. And folks, you start this right where you are. There are people in your life who do well what you need to know. Why not ask them? On this call, there's people right now who do well what you need to learn. Why not ask them? And there are people here who need to know what you do. Why not share it with them? Talk about a way to connect and network and build teams. I ended up writing down 11 things that I could be working on a regular basis to become my personal best, right? And we all get the idea of continuing education, right? Professional development. Very few of us ever articulate what that means. And never has there been a more important time for us to be the best we can personally be than right now during this pandemic, during the things that have changed, during the things that are going to change going forward. You need to be on your game, and this is the way to do it. I wrote down some things that were common to us. I would go to trade shows or trade conferences like this one right now within my industry. I would get lessons. I would get coaching. I would find a mentor, find someone who has done what you want to do in some way, and say, hey, would you mentor me? Let me ask you a few questions every week or every month, okay? I would read regularly in my profession, right? So that I become the expert. You could do that. So I made this list. If you will do this exercise, I'll guarantee you 3 things about it. So this exercise is, what would it take for me to become a virtuoso, whatever it is you do? I'm going to say travel professional. Okay. What would it take? And you write down all the answers. If you will do this, I'll guarantee you 3 things. Number 1, it probably won't take you more than about 10 minutes. And that's because number 2, you already know the answers. Come on. We all know what we need to do. We just don't do it. And number 3, it will change your life. Not because you become a type A, work 24 hours a day kind of a thing. No, I don't believe that's successful. I don't believe that's not success to me. It's simply saying my time in my life is worth it. The things that are going on in the world right now require my best. My clients require my best. When you call a doctor to do work for you, you want someone who's a virtuoso, don't you? When you go to take your car to get it fixed, you want someone who's a virtuoso. When people come to you with their travel needs, they want a virtuoso on the other line. So when you have the attitude to become your personal best, you know that there's no choice but to act decisively, to make decisions and move forward. So I'm going to finish up here with a piece of music that was kind of crazy for me to try on a guitar. I was playing at a ski lodge in Virginia, which is like a ski lodge in Texas. Some snow, not a lot. And this lady asked me to play a song called The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I thought that was nuts. But I thought, what if, right? What if I could? And I faked my way through the lyrics, and I don't know, both the people that I'd enjoyed it. It was a long time ago, but it was a seminal moment, so I remember their names, Mom and Dad. So anyway, this is a guitar version of The Devil Went Down to Georgia. He was in a bind because he was way behind. He was willing to make a deal. When he came across this young man sawing on a fiddle and playing it hot, and the devil jumped up on a hickory stump and said, boy, let me tell you what. I know it, but I'm a fiddle player too. And if you'd care to take a dare, I'll make a bet with you. Now, you play a pretty good fiddle, boy, but give the devil his due. I'm going to fiddle with gold against your souls who think I'm better than you. I'll take your bet you're going to correct, 'cause I'm the best there's ever been. Fire flew from his fingertips as he rosin up his hoe. He pulled the bow across the strings and it made an evil hiss. Like this. Yeehaw. When the devil finished, Johnny said, "You're pretty good, old son. Let's sit down in that chair right there and let me show you how it's done." Boys run. Son. Child, no. Yeah. Well, the devil bowed his head because he knew that he'd been beaten. He laid that golden fiddle on the ground at Johnny's feet. Johnny said, come on back if you ever want to try again. Because I done told you once, you son of a gun, I'm the best that's ever been. He played Run, Boys, Run. Discover opportunities, change quickly, act decisively. You guys are going to be great. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your conference.